Hello and welcome to the analysis of the Hindu newspaper dated December 10th, 2022. In this video, we are going to talk about two important newspaper articles. Now, these articles are important, significant for the civil services examination. But this doesn't discard the fact that other articles which are present in the Hindu newspaper weren't important. So, we have presented a list of all the important newspaper articles which were important in the Hindu newspaper. You can go through all of these newspaper articles, but they do not require that kind of understanding, and that is why we are going to stick to just explaining two important newspaper articles. If this is very clear to you, do consider subscribing to this channel to never miss an update from the bureaucratic way, and join us on Telegram to get all the important PDFs important for the civil services examination. So with this, let's now head to the first important newspaper article. Now this particular newspaper article is regarding a cyclone, right? Now this cyclone is named as Mandous. Now let's talk about this particular newspaper article and what all havoc this particular cyclone has created. So basically the cyclone Mandous began landfall at the Mammalpuram coast near Chennai at 10 p.m. on Friday, bringing more intense rain to the coastal areas of the Tamil Nadu. This is what cyclone does, right? It brings in more rains because it carries a lot of water from the seas. So basically the cyclone originates in the oceans or the seas, and then it gets transferred to the land area, and the land area, what happens is that the intensity of the cyclone decreases somewhat, but the coastal areas are highly affected by it. So this particular cyclone is moving or moved at the speed of 14 km per hour, but the winds which accompany it are much higher. It is 85 km per hour, and they may blow along the coastlines of Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and southern Andhra Pradesh coast till Saturday morning, and they are going to decrease gradually because whenever a cyclone makes a landfall, its speed decreases because of all the obstructions coming in its way. But until it decreases the speed, all the havoc had been created. This is how the cyclone functions, right? So now the places in Chennai, Tiruvallur, Ranipet and started experiencing strong surface winds of 50 to 60 km per hour around 9 p.m. said S. Balchandran, who is basically the additional Director General of Meteorology, Chennai. So now that we have understood what is happening on around the cyclone Mandous, let's first understand what is this cyclone. Let's understand what is the term cyclone. So cyclones are basically rapid inward air circulation around a low pressure area. So we have a low pressure area which is going to be in the between, and then we are going to have the winds which are going round and round. Now these are either anti-clockwise or counterclockwise, or they are going to be clockwise. It all depends upon in which area they are. So basically in the northern hemisphere, these movement or the air circulation is going to be anti-clockwise, in anti-clockwise direction, and in the southern hemisphere it is going to be in a clockwise direction. And cyclones are usually accompanied by violent storms and bad weather. And if we talk about the word cyclone, then it comes from Greek word which is known as cyclos, which means that coils of snake, because all the movement is around and round, and that is why it is known as coils of a snake, cyclos, right? So now this particular term was coined by Henry Paddington because the tropical storms in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea appear like coiled serpents of sea. Now that we have understood this, let's talk about the types of cyclones, because we basically have two cyclones. The first ones occur in the tropical region, that is why they are called the tropical cyclones, and the second one are in the temperate zones, that is why they are known as temperate cyclones or the extratropical cyclones. So let's talk about first tropical cyclones. So tropical cyclones basically develop in the region between the Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of Cancer, and that is why they are known as tropical cyclones. And they are large scale weather systems developing over tropical or subtropical waters, where they get organized into surface wind circulation. So basically the origination of a cyclone happens in the ocean. You need to understand that, and then it makes the landfall. Whenever it makes the landfall, it creates havoc. The cyclones in the sea are not of very much concern to us, though they are of concern to the boats and all the vessels that are present in the sea or in the ocean. But the main concern arises when it makes a landfall, because the winds, which are very high in number, and in this case, in the when we talk about the cyclone Mandous, we have talked about that winds have reached around 85 kilometer per hour, which is devastating. And at the same time, the movement of the cyclone is like 14 kilometer per hour in the case of cyclone Mandous, which is also very devastating. Now let's talk about extratropical cyclones, or basically the temperate cyclones. So extratropical cyclones occur in the temperate regions and high latitude regions. Though they do not occur they do not occur in the polar regions, but they do originate sometimes in the polar regions as well. Now all of these cyclones which are originating in the temperate region, in the high latitudes, or in the polar regions are going to be named as temperate cyclones, right? So if this is very clear to you, let's now move ahead to the cyclones that we experience in India. Now basically we experience tropical cyclones because India is a tropical country, right? Now the tropical cyclones originate over the Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. But what's more important for us is this area of Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean, because that is where the majority of the cyclones originate, or these tropical cyclones originate. So these tropical cyclones have very high wind velocity and heavy rainfall and hit the parts of Indian coastal states. For example, we experience the cyclones or the devastation from the cyclones in basically 5 Indian coastal states. These are Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Odisha and Gujarat. Now all the other areas also experience the cyclones, but they are majorly present in these areas. And if you see this particular map, then in the dark blue we can see all of the areas which are affected by the cyclone. Basically the Gujarat region, we have the Tamil Nadu region, we also have the Andhra Pradesh, Bengal and Odisha region. But these areas, somewhat the areas of the Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and somewhat the areas of this Maharashtra, these do not experience that intensity of the cyclones, though they do experience some kind of the cyclones. Basically what happens is that this particular eastern coast of India experience much of the breadth of the cyclones. All right, so now these particular cyclones are very destructive due to high wind velocity and torrential rains that accompanies it. Now that we have understood which areas are affected by the cyclone, let's talk about what are the elements associated with this particular cyclones which cause destruction. Because the cyclones are devastating, not because of the fact that they make the landfall and all, they are particularly devastating because of the fact that they are accompanied with strong winds. Now these particular strong winds damage installations, dwellings, communication systems, trees, etc., resulting in a loss of property. And apart from it, we also experience the torrential rains, because we know that cyclones carry a lot of water, and that leads to torrential rains and inland floodings. Now this leads to the problem when the people are left shelterless and due to the cyclones, and it also causes, or these torrential rains and inland flooding also cause large scale soil erosion and weakening of the embankments. And apart from it, if we have a lot of storm, then it is going to affect the human beings. They are going to basically go shelterless, and then their livestock are also affected, and it also causes the eroding in the beaches and embankments. It destroys the vegetation and leads to reduction of soil fertility. Now that we have understood the destruction that is caused by the cyclones, let's talk about how we can manage this particular destruction, how we can reduce this particular destruction. So the first means is the structural measures. So the structures can be made. For example, we can construct the cyclone shelters. We can also construct the cyclone resistant buildings, road links, culverts, bridges, all of this, canals, drains, saline embankments, all of these structures can be made more cyclone proof. And apart from it, we also have non-structural measures. For example, the early warning dissemination system. We can also manage the coastal zones. we can create more awareness, and then we have the disaster risk management capacity building of all the stakeholders involved. And to implement these particular measures, we have what is known as National Cyclone Risk Mitigation Project. Now this particular project is being implemented through the World Bank assistance, and state to state we have all of the NCRMP. Alright, so this is how we manage the cyclones. And this particular cyclone basically is named as Cyclone Mandous, but how does it came about? So we have what is known as the world meteorological naming of the cyclones. Now the cyclones are named in advance, and then we name all the cyclones on that basis in an alphabetical, in all the order, right, in the order we have set it. Now all of these countries which are affected by the tropical cyclones are named here, and then we have the names which they have given in advance. Now these names are going to be considered for the next cyclone which is going to happen. For example, we have already seen the Shaheen, Zawad, Asani, Sitrang, and wherever in all of these countries, wherever the next cyclone is going to happen, it is going to be named Mocha, which has been named particularly by the Yemen. And this particular cyclone, Mandous, was named by United Arab Emirates. Alright. So these are the countries that are going to decide basically how the cyclones are going to be named. Now that we have understood what are the cyclones, we have also understood what are the types of cyclones. We have also understood how we can manage manage the destruction caused by the cyclones, and we have also understood the naming of the cyclones. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article. Let's now move ahead to the next important newspaper article. Now this particular newspaper article becomes very important for the geopolitics because China is playing a very long-term game. Now this particular long-term game is regarding what is known as Gulf Summit, because China for the first time has held what is known as China Gulf Summit or China Gulf Cooperation Council meeting, right? So now we are going to understand what is the China is saying regarding this particular establishment or this particular cooperation, and we are going to also understand what is known as Gulf Cooperation Council. Now President Xi Jinping told Gulf Arab leaders on Friday at China GCC summit that China would work to buy oil and gas in yuan, a move that would support Beijing's goal to establish its currency internationally and weaken the US dollar's grip on the world trade. So basically what they are suggesting is that instead of buying all the oil in the dollars, which happens internationally, we are going to buy the oil and gas in yuan, which is the Chinese currency, right? Now this particular move is going to what? The support the Beijing's goal to establish its currency internationally, and it is also going to weaken the US dollar's grip on the world trade. We are going to go into that part also, but first let's understand what were the major pointers in his speech. Now the first point is that the China will continue to import large quantities of crude oil from the GCC countries, which is the first point. And the second thing is that it is going to expand imports of the liquefied natural gas, which is the LNG. Now that it has imported all of the natural gas and the large quantities of crude oil, it is also further going to strengthen cooperation in upstream oil and gas development, engineering services, storage, transportation and refining. And it is also going to make full use of the Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange as a platform to carry out yuan settlement of oil and gas trade. So this is the first part of this particular speech. Let's talk about the other things he have also suggested, because he have suggested a lot of things. So she proposed other areas of cooperation in the next 3 to 5 years, including finance and investment, innovation and new technologies, as well as aerospace, language and cultures. So basically what the Gulf countries want, they want more market for their oil, right? And what do the Chinese want? The Chinese want the oil, and this is how the marriages are made, because the marriages are made in heaven, right? They are made in the geopolitics, right? So now Now that China is establishing itself as a global superpower, and we have what is known as yuan, which is a Chinese currency, and they are going to make it the international currency. They are going to make it more legitimate, and it is going to weaken the US dollar, right? So how they are going to do? They are going to make more investments in these areas, right? When you give the technologies to the all the Gulf countries, they are not very technologically advanced, right? The technology to develop the technologies is with the China, and this is being given to the Arab countries. Now this is a marriage made in heaven, right? Now China will also establish bilateral investment and economic cooperation working mechanisms, and it will also carry out local currency swap cooperation, and it will also deepen digital currency cooperation. China is big on digital currency. We have our digital currency which is in pilot mode right now, but the Chinese have developed its digital currency much ahead of India, right? So now that all of these countries are also big into the digital currency, if you deepen the digital currency cooperation between all of these countries, then the transactions are going to be more smooth, right? So now that currency swap cooperation has come up here, we are going to first discuss what is this currency swap cooperation. So basically it is an arrangement between two friendly countries to involve in trading in their own local currencies, and as per the arrangement, both countries pay for import and export trade at the predetermined rates of the exchange. So the exchange rates are going to be predetermined. There is going to be no fluctuation in it, and it is also going to bring the dependency on the dollar to very low, right? Because you are not trading in the US dollar. In such arrangement, no third country is involved, thereby eliminating the need to worry about the exchange variations, because the exchange rates are fixed. That is how the exchange rate variations are not going to affect this particular cooperation, and this is what is known as currency swap cooperation. It's not very new. India is also doing it with Sri Lanka and all of the other countries as well, right? Now that we have understood the currency swap cooperation, let's now understand what is this Gulf Cooperation Council. So basically it is a political, economic, social and regional organization according to its charter, and it has been established by an arrangement which was concluded in 1981 among the Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and UAE. And all of these six countries established this particular agreement, or they established a GCC in the view of their special relations, geographic proximities, similar political systems based on Islamic beliefs, joint destiny and common objectives. And the structure of the GCC is such that it has three bodies. First one is the Supreme Council, which is the highest authority. Then we have the Ministerial Council, and then we have the Secretariat General. And the Secretariat of GCC, that is Gulf Cooperation Council, is basically located in Riyadh, which is in Saudi Arabia, right? Now let's talk about this is it regarding this particular newspaper article. Okay, let's talk about what's so special about this particular arrangement between all of these countries, or the relations between these countries. So Mr. Xi's visit comes at a time when Riyadh's long-standing alliance with the Washington has been strained over human rights issues and the energy policies, and further cooperation with the GCC will also lead to Beijing's goal to establish its currency internationally, and it will also weaken the US dollar's grip on the world trade. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article, and this is it for the day. Thank you from my side. Do like and share the video and subscribe to this channel. Have a good day. Bye.